Hello, this is Gwen. Today is Friday, November the 24th, 2017, and it's about 9:15 p.m. This is my final review of the Radical Home Goddesses book, Sister Ajali. Um, I started reading it earlier this month, and I have a prior review. So I'm going to put the link to that review in this one in the comment section or in the description section on this review. So if you would go ahead and read that one first because this one that I'm about to do now picks up where that one left off. Now I read I gave an interim review, and that was at about I think 20% in, and so I'm going to expand on some of that information that I put out there. Before I did this, you should know that before I did this, I went and took a shower and washed my hair because I feel like I'm about to talk about something sacred. And that's what I do when I get ready to pour a libation for my ancestors and do a remembrance for my family members that have passed on. I bathe. I might not wash my hair that day, but I do bathe before I do that because I feel like I'm touching things that are holy, thinking about things that are holy. And as I got ready, when I finished reading the book and I got ready to do the review, I stopped myself and I said, no, I need to bathe. I need to wash up and shower and wash my hair while I'm at it. And I was wondering why I stopped myself from starting the review a while ago. So that's what I analyzed, and that's what I decided that I'm feeling like it's a sacred thing. So I came back, I finished my shower, washed my hair, and made a cup of tea, and now I'm talking. So the first part I'm going to do is talk about my background in reading, or more of it. In the interest of fair disclosure, I'm going to tell you the kind of books I like now. I like to read violent action adventure type books. I want sex in it and I want violence. And the more the better. And if I had to choose between the two, I would choose the violence. I would tell people that anybody that'll listen to me that if it's something ain't eviscerated or decapitated by page 50, I don't want to read it. And I also choose this kind of movies to go to. I don't go to the mature, thinky kind of movies. I want the fast, fun stuff. I want the beat down stuff. I want the blow up stuff. Car chases, I done seen so many of them. They don't move me, but I want something blowing up. I don't mind body parts spraying and beating up and all of that. That's what I usually choose when I read. Right now, I'm a fan of the Charlie Davis Center series and the Jane Yellow Rock series, Guardians of the Galaxy series, or Galactic Guardians, something like that. Various kinds of series that are fun for me. Even read one that's by the lady who wrote Vampire Diaries. I'm not reading Vampire Diaries, but she did use make the Dark Swan series and various spin-offs therein. So I might be on number 12 or 13 in a various series, and they all are just like. But there are books on my shelf that I've read from people that I've met or know or recommend from people that I know. Like I have two books on my shelf, mysteries that are written by coworkers. Yeah, as in workers in the same agency that I'm in. And I have a book on my shelf from books on my shelf about the series from a lady that was selling books on the booth in the BX, and she had a series, and they sounded like something I'd be interested in, so I got those. And I made her sign them, and those signed copies from my coworkers, I made them sign them. And so if I know you, I buy your book because I want to see what you wrote. And when the Radical Home Goddess was talking about her book, I bought it. I didn't say anything, but I bought it. I didn't let nobody know I bought it because I didn't know I was going to read it or know when I was going to read it. I bought it on September the 1st. I got the Kindle edition on September the 1st, but I didn't start reading it till November. When I opened it up, when I first opened it and saw that it was the writing style of what I nicknamed the hold that thought writing style, as explained in my previous review, I was delighted. Now, some information, additional information about the Hold Your Thought writing style. When I first opened up my first book that had that writing style, it was too complicated for me to read right then. I said, "Ooh, let me put this back because that's just a lot of words, because my synapses weren't wired for it." So, and that was the A. Aguirre one, which was a mystery with a tiny font. And then so I, expanded the font on my electronic reader, and then I set the book aside and read some other stuff. Then I came back about a month or two later, got past the first page, but still set it aside because something else came out that I wanted to read. And then finally, the third time I opened it up, it was a breeze to read, and I was so I only the nearest I can put together is that my synapses wired themselves to be able to comprehend that better. So if you're beginning to read it and it's your first experience with the hold that thought writing style, I'll explain it in this review too. Let me go ahead and explain it. What that is that the first phrase in the sentence would be several words, and that's what the sentence is talking about. But then there will be a comma in another phrase, and a comma in another phrase or word, and a comma in another phrase, and it might go on for several lines. But each one of those phrases helps support and clarify that initial thought. Okay, so you got to read that sentence with holding that first thought and then read through all those clarifications and support phrases to get a clear picture of what this person is saying. And it's a more rounded sentence and gives you a more complete visual of what that person is addressing in that thought. So you got to hold that thought, and that's what I nicknamed it, that writing style. And on my previous review, I showed two demonstrations of two different books that, aside from the Goddesses book, that demonstrated that style. So it's a legitimate, real writing style, and you're not breaking any rules. You're not breaking grammatical rules. When she used it, she took it to another level, as explained in the previous interview. So, with that hold your thought writing style, if you're not familiar with it, it can throw you for a loop. But be patient with yourself and let your synapses wire and create new neural pathways so that you can absorb it better, because it'll be better for your thinking altogether. For example, when I was reading it, I play puzzle games on the computer in my downtime, and I play like the Jewel Adventures or the Crystal Adventures, but the goal in the game is to win before in a certain number of moves, right? So I would almost max out my moves before I win, and sometimes I even lose. The last time I played it, I was whipping right through that. I was winning in record moves that I never did before. I would usually average about 1,800 points. A game I just won was about 6,000 points. Okay, so I think that even reading her book helped my neural pathways develop some new synapses. It had to, because I'm thinking differently. And I think that's important. I don't know why, but I think that's important. I got to ponder that. Okay. So when you come into a bookstore with her book, it'll be under the sci-fi fantasy section. And then the subcategory would be fantasy. The difference between sci-fi and fantasy, they usually lump together, but they're two different distinct genres. Sometimes they merge, but it's rare. But sometimes they do. Sci-fi, the impetus is technology and science. Fantasy, the impetus is magic. What moves the book is magic. And science fiction, self-explanatory, science and technology. So you got spaceships and galactic this and all of that. Fantasy is you got your magic imbued item, your special kind of people, magic people, and people who are capable of doing this, and your werewolves and vampires and witches and things like that. or even giants and centaurs and swords and things. All of that, that's fantasy. With this book, I'm going to add three more categories that it'll fit in. Oh, and sorry, you'll also find it in the African American book section or the urban book sections. But I'm going to add some more categories that should be found in. They won't put it there, but it'll fit there. One is that I would find it in the tech manuals. Yes, in the tech manuals where the textbooks are, because she's offering a blueprint slash roadmap directions. Okay, it belongs in the tech manuals because it'll fit as a textbook. It'll fit there. I'll also put it in the self-help category. You go to the bookstore and you see all of those self-help books about how to do various things that'll help yourself. This book will fit there. It'll fit in the self-help category because it does tell you how to help yourself. Whenever I use even describe this book, I use the word fiction in quotes. It's technically fiction, but it's not really. And that's I'm gonna talk more about layered meaning and layered writing. And the final category that I didn't realize it would fit until like 98% done. I mean, way down back in the epilogue. It'll fit in the sacred text. It'll fit in the sacred text. I didn't catch on. I didn't notice that till toward the end. And that's the other category that I'm gonna put it in. You see, as we get ready to be awake and move on and move to our own helping ourselves to our next level, we're going to need some things. And among the things we need is a new form of religious text. Just like the Bible moved us prior, but we're walking away from Christianity, and so many of us because it's not what we need and we're recognizing it. But we do need some other things. And although the religious books are all out there and they're helpful and they're doing their job, don't get me wrong, whatever they are, we're also going to be needing a new level. I would say, and I don't know if she agree or not, and I don't think she would, because I think that she recognizes another book. But so I might be stepping out of bounds, but this is what I feel. I think that this would be one of the books of the new sacred text, and it'll be one of the multiple books that I hope that will be a part of a new sacred text for us and only us. So yeah, but it is a sacred element that matters, and so that's why I couldn't even make this review without cleaning my body, because I think it has a holy element to it. I just think that, okay? And I've learned long ago to obey and watch my subconscious and listen to it. Now, I already talked about the dates, da da da. Yes, now, next about homeschool. I think this book should be part of the homeschooling curriculum, no matter what age you are, because a child could read this book. A child could read this book. There's no sex in it, no sex in it whatsoever. And I didn't expect it to be. This book can be read by homeschool children. I wouldn't put it out. It might be helpful in public schools, but I don't imagine it'll ever be in public schools or private schools, but it will be a help in homeschool. The reason why I like to talk about it being a help in homeschool is two reasons. It's filled with love for us and respect for us. Every word, every comma, every letter in that book is a demonstration of boundless love for us. You don't read that often. We don't see that often. We don't get to look at that. There is nothing out there that is unapologetically, uncompromised love for us. She is not holding back her love for us. She don't compromise it and she don't undermine it. Everything about it shows straightforward love. It is galactic love, and the earth ain't big enough to hold the love that you can see coming out of that book. Even the sentence, the periods, the blank spaces, you can feel it, you can see it. I can't say enough about that. So, a child that's black needs to see something that loves them fully, without reservation, and willing to demonstrate it and say it and not pull it back. Right now, we have books that and movies and all things that apologize for even having us have a positive role in anything. Even if we win a game, we got to undermine it by pulling back from it, make an excuse for winning. That's all through the media and everything we're doing. We got to make excuses for our successes because it's some kind of special trick when we win or do something good. This lady didn't make no excuses for us being successful. She expected it and she showed it. The next thing is respect. She respects us and she wrote with a deep respect for us and a respect for our intelligence. She respected our ability and capability. And the trick here is this: she's demonstrating our intelligence by the way she wrote that book. That book is exhibit A for our intelligence and what we're capable of. That you are reading and understanding it is exhibit B. You can't read that book unless you got some sharps, you got some wit. Okay? That's why I'm talking about. If you ain't ready to read it, go ahead and let your synopsis wire up a little bit because it's not. You can't. You got to be sharp in the head. Got to be strong-witted, strong-minded. You got to be smart. A child can read it, but like I said, it's got to be a smart child. Can't be the one that's got a 2-second attention span. Can't be the one that's programmed by American modern media. You gotta have a smart child and it's gotta be a smart adult. This author did not hold back. She brought some vocabulary words that I had to look up. And some words that I don't know what it means yet, but I could tell by the concept because I can guess. A word like apogee. What the hell is a apogee? And I ain't gonna Google it. I might Google it. Give me a minute. Because she brought some vocabulary skills out of this world. I'm gonna try to see if I can see it in Google. And some other words. It say Apogee. I think that's how it was spelled. Okay, it looks like it was something to do with electronics and engineering. Okay, I see it. Okay, that's nice. Oh, okay. Now I know what that word means. You look it up and you figure it out because I can look. So you can Google it. Okay, it needs something to. It does. It had a decorating style. I knew it had to do with a decorating style, but where the hell did she find that word? And she had some other words in there. So you got to bring your A game when you read this book. Okay? I can a picture because if I had a wrote it or even anybody else in the world had a wrote that book, right? They would have been spiking the ball, talking about language and literature is my bitch, because she's that good. Yeah, and she would never say nothing like that. She would never say nothing like that. But anybody else that had a done it, they would have said that. So yeah, she's a demonstration that physical thing is an embodiment of her respect and embodies our abilities, and we're part of it. That's part of what I mean by layers. Also, with this writing style, this writing technique is going to be a benchmark, or yeah, a benchmark. Because see, I went on and bought this book, the hard copy. I mean, the paper copy, because I figure it's going to be a collector's item. And so you want to get the first printing or the second printing, because they got books that are valued in pretty good dollars that are old books. I got books on my shelf from the 70s. They're not valuable, they're important to me. So I keep important books and I want my physical copy, because if there is ever an apocalypse, then electronic things won't be as available or working without their, at the batteries go away. Unless you get your little crank things, and even that is eventually go away because it's electronic. It's not physical. So your physical books are going to matter. So keep your history books, keep your physical books, keep your important books. And so I ordered her that paper copy of it that I got wrapped up in an envelope, one of those long big envelopes to keep it pristine, because I think it's going to be important like that. So let me go back to my point there a second. Yeah, I was talking about how layered thinking works. Okay, this author is one of the only ones that I could see that's ever done this before, who wrote in layers. But this layer is already natural to our thinking. We've been holding back because we've been making our thinking fit linear European minds. She explains the linear concept, what I call the linear concept. She might call compartmentalized thinking, because as described somewhere in the book there. But I call it linear because it's straight line. Okay, they don't like you deviating from that straight line. You might, if a person who begins to write papers for white teachers and white professors, or even professors in general who are trained in Western style, the first word they be telling African Americans is to focus. Because if you deviate from that, then you have confused them. They don't want to see a lot of excess stuff and sideways thinking. But we think expansive, we think layered, we think geometric. So whenever I'm writing for a European, or even making a speech or talking to them, I have to focus down and present it linearly. But that's not my natural way of thinking. My natural way of thinking is geometric or expansive. If you ever heard Minister Farrakhan make a speech to his audience, his people, us, and a European witnessed it, a European would say things like he was rambling or it was disjointed. But that's because to him it was rambling and disjointed. But to me, it was perfect because he's addressing concepts that I was thinking of while he was talking. And to give me the full truth, he had to bring those concepts to the front, explain why it mattered or didn't matter, and address it. And even if that concept has a branch concept, he has to address that too. So to me, he makes a perfect speech because he's keeping up with me. He's keeping up with my mind thinking, and I can keep up with him. Europeans are not good at that. So everything they write is linear and straightforward. She did not bow down to it. She wrote in a way that followed the rules. But you ever saw what? Did you know how black men changed the face of basketball with the way they played basketball? They like your Magic Johnson and your Patrick Ewing and all of the other ones. What's this? I can't, because I'm not a sports fan, but all the big deal basketball players, right in the heyday of basketball, early on when it first started, and people were amazed at what they saw when black men turned the face of basketball into something magical. Okay, she did that with this book. She turned writing into something magical. She stayed with the rules, but she twisted them and exploded them and expanded them. She did, what's the thing, slam dunks, where you hang off the rim. No, you jump up over the thing and jump it in the thing. That's a slam dunk. The other one is where you hang off the rim, and the other one is where you bounce it off the back thingy. Okay, or you run and spin and almost levitate as you jump up high to get the basket in. Okay, she did that stuff. And That's the best I can do describing basketball. You should have heard me trying to describe baseball, and heaven help you if you hear see me try to do football. All I know is they do the little end zone dance. Okay, writing in this kind of book, that's the kind of dance you would do. So that's how she did that. I think that's where I saw her writing what she did to literature, and that's why it's a collector's item. And that part's done. Okay, yeah, she demonstrated intelligence. Now I'm gonna talk about my adventure while I was reading it. Okay, at 40%, I made that first review, and I brought the hard copy. Right after I did the review because I got to 43% and decided I wanted the hard copy and the electronic copy to actually read. At 60%, I realized you can make bookmarks because there was a passage in it that was so profound that I wanted to mark it and reread it, right? So at 60%, I said, "Oh, I can make a bookmark." So I just clicked the bookmark thing because I forgot. Okay? I forgot I could make bookmarks. At 80%, I remembered I could do highlights. If you saw my first review, and I'm trying to look for that passage in the page that I wanted to quote that was part of the sample, that was me not remembering you can make bookmarks and highlights if you got an electronic device. So anything you want to remember you can do bookmarks and highlights. Okay? So, and then at 90%, I noticed that I was reading it like a textbook. I noticed it. I noticed that and 90% was when I noticed after I did several bookmarks and highlights that I was reading it like a textbook because there are things in there I want to remember. There are profound sentences that I don't want to forget. I would read this book right, and one of the reasons it took me so long to read it, I already talked about how I go back and forth and look at the sentence structure and marvel at it and smile because it's so great. Okay, to me it was so great, so I smile and giggle at her audacity to do that like I saw it. Okay, so I was already marveling at that, and then I had to come back and pick up the storyline because I done got sidetracked, and I would be doing that all through, excuse me, I'd be doing that all through the book. But then I got to passages that were really profound that I had to stop, close the book, think that passage through, think that profound thought or concept through, and I might be thinking for about 2 or 3 hours, just thinking, looking at a concept that she introduced. And I had to think and look at that and figure it out and watch it. Because it's a concept, it might have been something I've been wrestling with, and then I saw her put it in that succinct way, and then I said, "Oh." And there's one concept she said, and I nearly jumped out my seat, shouting yes. Okay? That's the kind of thing she was putting out. So I have to read that, and I had to ponder and contemplate as I read. And so at 90%, that's when I realized that I was highlighting and things like I would a textbook. I don't do that to the other books I read. Not at all. Not at all. This book I did. There are things I want to come back to, things I want to look at again, things I want to enjoy. Now, a Egyptian thinking, let me talk about that a second. Egyptian thinking is layered as far as I'm concerned. There are people who are having controversy about whether the meta has been translated and all. But my view is this. It might be if you can have several people do independent translation using those rules they have and they come out with the same result. Okay, I buy that layer was looked at and translated. But Egyptian, everything they did is in layers of meaning. So you might have that layer good, but you don't have the rest of them. And anybody that actually did get the rest of them wouldn't tell you they did because they know that it's important to keep it to themselves and to keep that out of the hands of people who have no business with knowing it. So the Egyptians think in layers and there's geometric layers. Just like a triangle If it's three-dimensional, becomes a pyramid. Okay? Like a circle, if it's three-dimensional, becomes a sphere. If you overlay all of them on top of each other, you've got some serious geometry going on. And that's how that book worked. She's one of the only authors I've seen that can do that, or have done that, or had the audacity to do it in those layers. And I do mean 3D writing. I picked up on that early. 3D writing, and then some. So that's important. And only person that can actually translate the full Egyptian writing is someone who was the same, who had the same attributes as a writer, and that's only melanated people. And anybody that read it that can actually does translate it won't tell you what it says, nor will they tell you that they translated it. But most of it is being held away from us, and I call that our fault. So yeah, she didn't hold back. Yeah. So with linear thinking, it kind of confines us, but with this kind of writing and reading, I didn't feel confined. I finally found something that could keep up with me and force me to keep up with it. That's perfect. That's beautiful. That's a good thing. Okay, I'm right at about 31 minutes. That's all I wanted to do was give a half hour review. Grab her book. You'll be thankful. I'll be thankful, and I think that it's a blueprint for us to go through our next steps. I would like to have her, if I had a suggestion, I want her to write a nutrition book, because right now she has got. That's why I call it a blueprint and a roadmap and a and a textbook. She's got things that'll work right now. She has got things that will work right now. I'm gonna incorporate some of those things over the next year. I'm gonna phase it in, slowly, and I'm already starting to phase in some things, and some things I've already, put in place to do. But there's some important things that have to happen. Right now, I already know the water supply is messed up, so you want to, if I were to give advice to my fans and family, would be to read this kind of stuff and incorporate it, such as, I don't think she wrote it down like that, but it's implied, to get yourself a water system so you can have pure water. And me, is now that I can see what's coming up on the horizon, I'm gonna try to figure out how to have a air system or something, because I don't know what to do about having oxygen. Because if we are having a planet killing event, and it looks like the evidence says so, um, there are things we need to do and see to. And it's going to take some work, and it's going to take all of us that are waking up. Okay, that's all I got, and I enjoyed it immensely. If I were to give it stars, I would give it 200 stars out of 5. And you got to ask yourself, if you read that and still thinking like you thought, then you got to wonder, how big of a coon do you want to be? You got to just analyze, how big of a sellout do you want to be? So let's get on this, okay? Let's get on this. All right then. Bye bye. And thanks for listening to me. I am ecstatic. All right, bye bye.